using the old famous Pearsall's tying silk. Put on 5 or 6 turns at the absolute most. Snip off the waste. And we have a look at the undercovert feather from the moorhen wing, or waterhen as they call it. And if you look closely, it's rather like a fingernail. Now just clear off the stem, peel off the bottom fibres there, the ones you're not going to use. Hold the feather by the very, very tip carefully and gently stroke the fibres the wrong way. Down like so, because we're going to tie this in by the tip, and if you look closely you'll see just how fragile it is there, so be careful with the next operation. Lay it onto the shank, catch it in with the working fibre facing forward over the eye, and bind it down in close touching turns in the usual way. Tight with the tips of the scissors, get that out of the way, and continue building the body down the shank of the hook, stopping short. One of the features here is of this fly is a short body, just about level with the point of the hook. One more turn there. Between the point and the barb is pretty general. A modern, really sticky wax helps the next technique, which is called touch dubbing these days. I'm going to use some mole fur and a rake. Just rake it out gently. And you only want a light dusting of dubbing, so you don't want huge amounts. Just pick it up. And these fine short dubbings are really quite easy to work with in this way. Just brush it gently along that sticky thread, and you can see the small amount of dubbing that's hanging onto the thread. You don't need very much at all. If you do, you just overdo the whole thing. Get rid of those few fibres, and now we'll wind the thread up a bit shorter and form the body, working forwards now, and very difficult to show when you're tying here in camera, but you can form a neat open body which, when it gets wet, allows the colour of the thread to blush through the fine fibres of the dubbing there. Work it one turn in front of the hackle, usual way. Get rid of the rubbish there, and just 2 or 3 more turns forward. Ready to wind the hackle. These hackles are wound very sparse. 2 turns is absolute maximum, and in fact I frequently use only half the amount of fibres I'm using here. I strip one side of the hackle stem completely to get a very sparse finish, but for close-up work here I'll leave the whole thing as it is. Just catch it in with a couple of turns, put another one in. Again, with this thread, which is quite bulky, you have to be careful how many turns and make every turn do the job you want. Snip it off. There, just get rid of those few unwanted fibres, pull them back. I'm only going to tidy the head up here. I'm not going to lean that hackle back at all. Just pull it out of the way temporarily. Every turn has to be placed exactly where you want it, and then whip finish. 1, 2, third turn there. Needle into the loop. Pull the thread out at the tail. That's it. Snip off close. Just push it in there. And now we'll just tidy up those few fibres. There we are. Two flies we've just tied can be fished in the traditional wet fly style, across and slightly down, which takes a certain amount of concentration of eyesight and touch. The flies are allowed to drift with the current and very slowly across. It's windy, so I'm using a spay roll just to flick the fly across there. Upstream mend, keep the line behind the flies as they go. I don't really want them to tear around at high speed. There, we've got a fish. Just a pluck and away we go. Obviously a grayling from the way it's working in the current, using the current rather than rushing about. We'll bring this one quietly in. Looks a decent fish.